Looks like it's working.
Right on.
Oh, there you go. Live on YouTube. Sweet. All right. Let's do the obligatory hello in the chat, and then we will go. All right. Hello to all you Patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 293 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the number one live podcast, except for those few times when we're not live because technical problems. Recorded April 19th, 2021. Tonight, I have Ian, Benny, and I will be your Andrew this evening. It's Gavin.
We'd love to hear your feedback about the show. Please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. A version of the show is available on Stitcher and iTunes.
We need your help to support Canadian Patriot Podcast. Visit patreon.com/CPP and become a Patreon. You can get a better quality version of the show for just $1 per episode. Show you're not a communist and buy a CPP t-shirt for just $19.99 plus shipping and theft. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com homepage and follow the link on the right.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Our favorite segment. What are we drinking? Ian?
Well, in honor of my premier just deciding to impersonate a German dictator, I thought I'd break out the German beer again. So it's Bitburger Premium Pilsner. Bit ein Bit.
Nice. Benny, yourself?
I'm drinking some real Canadian natural spring water.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, and yeah, very pinky out.
Well, I've got the Maker's Mark and the Pepsi going again this evening. So successfully made the transition from Coke Zero.
Well, I understand Coke's trying their best to kind of backpedal a bit, but to no avail.
Yeah, too little, too late, I
Yeah.
guess. But while we're at it, remind everyone about the Patriot Challenge. We're asking you to do 5 things every day. Exercise for at least 45 minutes, practice a skill for at least 10 minutes, read a book for at least 15 minutes. Drink at least 2 liters of water, preferably with no alcohol in it, and then complete one task that will improve your life. You can grab the templates off our website and post them to social media. Do it even if we aren't on the social medias. Tell your friends, tell your enemies. It's a fun time. And also Section 74 challenges. If you've listened to us previously, you've heard us talk about them. The GoFundMe link is in the show notes, and you can also get involved by sending an email to s74process@gmail.com if you are considering filing one or have already done so and need some help. Oh, and it looks like we've got some listener feedback that's been attached and some new Patreons. Matt, we owe you a shirt, but hopefully you got our Patreon message. That, and apparently Liz from our land nav class is also one of our new Patreons. So thank you to you both.
Very nice.
Yes, and we've got a message here from Billy. Subject: your papers, please. The COVID lockdowns are here for your protection. Totalitarian Doug is really wilding out over there. I must read the new lockdown measures for Ontario. They make total sense. Anyway, and look at for a sweet Photoshop of Mr. Ford as Hitler or a Nazi to send to my friends that still live in Ontario. Google and DuckDuckGo are too precious to show me the good stuff, which is a little surprising to me since I've heard several times that he is literally Hitler. I'm hoping some guys are critical as you might have some good ones saved that you could pass along. Billy, there you go.
Well, Billy, I'd say that looks like an arts and crafts project for you to get on right there for yourself. I mean, maybe you could spread the love.
Yeah, we got another one here from Corey. Subject: gravel pits. Hey guys, let's scroll down here. I'm in southern Ontario with a lot of the gun clubs and ranges being closed or restricted due to the lockdowns. It's difficult to find somewhere to shoot. I want to find somewhere safe to do some Doug Ford approved, socially distanced, essential exercise with my firearms. Do you have any advice on the best way to find a gravel pit that is legal target practice? I
What?
mean, find local friends.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when I lived in southern Ontario, besides my gun range, I had a friend up near I guess the more Dolphin area. What would that be? Like that's over by Mount St. Louis Moonstone, and it's only because it was private property I could go shoot there. But Crown land south of the French River, right? It's an issue. I mean, I don't know where you're gonna find an empty gravel pit that isn't overrun with people already. But
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean it's hard. I mean,
yeah, like the closest place the last I heard from like the GTA Toronto area is like 3 hours north. So
well, no, they're a lot closer than that. Like, I mean, I can give you some approximates. I the problem is so like I know a few, and I'm fortunate enough to know some people that own some gravel pits and all that. But like nobody wants to. It's like asking someone what their fishing spot is.
nobody wants to
Nobody
share.
wants to
Right.
tell it, right? So, like, I can tell you that there's some that are within 2 hours for sure, but they're on private land sometimes, and you got to know the people, or like it's public land, but you've got to cut through private land to get to the public land, or like it's just not easy. The best thing to do is just make lots of friends that have guns that live in rural areas, because then you will be able to find where these places are and get invited to them. Um, or buy your own land and move out of the city.
I would highly recommend that myself from considering my other podcast. But
Yeah.
I would actually say take up extended camping trips if you have make a long weekend whenever you can and go like don't just go to Perry Sound like every other jackass from downtown
Yeah.
Toronto. Like I would go
Go,
like
go to
yeah.
Perry Sound adjacent, like or like
go way out there.
adjacent. Yeah.
Yeah, like go up like out North Bay area or something. Go for you find a provincial park to stay in for a few nights and then go Crown Land to Bounds up there, right? And then you won't be as
Yeah.
overrun.
Yeah. I mean, and in theory, you can look at the M&R maps for Ontario, and they have the zoning for all the different land use stuff. So anything that is crown land that is zoned as recreational or general use means that you can target shoot on it legally. Now, as long as the bylaws in the area don't say that you can't, it's approved for it. So you got to check into your local bylaws and then what the public land is zoned for. And if both of those things are good, you're good. But it's not easy. It sucks.
Yeah, I'm not trying to
Make friends.
I'm not trying to flex, but yeah, I mean, like that's one of the reasons I left too, is because I mean, I was just saying to Gavin before the show, I got two ranges wide open right now, and both within 25 minutes of the house, and accepting new members today. So I mean, like it's
Yeah.
unfortunately a matter of numbers versus ranges available. So you're kind of stuck where you are.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it sucks. That or send letters to Dougie. Tell him that you want your range open. There's not one single COVID outbreak that's been traced back to the range. Why can't they be open?
Reopen the one that was in the rail station there in downtown Toronto.
Yeah.
yeah, why not?
So let's get into, I guess, the meat of the show here. News. I mean, it's not really a good one to start with, but I mean, it's probably a big one. It's been a year since the Nova Scotia shooter, and it's in question marks because that's what all the media is still calling this guy a year later, even though, yes, he did
How many people?
shoot some people.
How many people did he shoot?
Well, it's hard to tell. So I guess there were 22 deaths, 2 or 3 injuries, and then he shot a couple of dogs, I believe, as well. But of so 22 deaths, 23 including his, 16 fires were set though. So I don't really know what the math is on all of that, but to me it sounds like more fires were set than shootings.
And the lowest
Nope.
number I heard was 9 deaths that died by fire, but I've heard higher numbers than that. So
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to tell. I mean, I wouldn't, does he qualify as a mass shooter? I guess technically he does, but I wouldn't necessarily say that that's all he did. I would have classified him more as a mass murderer, because that's appropriate regardless of how he did it. But I guess it marks the 1 year, and I don't like saying anniversary, but I guess anniversary of the event. Anniversaries I usually like for fun things like your birthday or like the day you met your spouse or married them. fun things like that. But it has been 1 year since then, and I guess a little recap on what we've learned about this event in the last year and what's been done, because it's been a very strange year, partly as a result of this and partly as a result of what we're going to talk about later, and we've kind of briefly touched on in some of the listener feedback there. But I mean, what do we know about the Nova Scotia thing? What do you guys know?
Well, I know that they still really properly explained to me why they paid him $475,000 from a Brinks vault just before he went on the rampage.
Yeah.
See, my dog doesn't like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that is definitely one of those things that is still left out there open. We did find out, I guess, last November that the guns that were used, or at least were in his possession, were a 223 caliber Colt law enforcement carbine rifle, a Ruger Mini 14, a 40 caliber Glock 23 pistol, a 9mm Ruger P89 pistol, and a stolen 9mm Smith & Wesson pistol.
Hey, Gavin.
Yes.
How many of those was he licensed to own?
None of them. He did not have a PAL or an FAC or an RPAL or whatever else they want to call it. He had no license. And it seems that, so, the AR, the Glock, and the Ruger were all guns that were smuggled illegally across the border. The stolen 9mm Smith & Wesson is the one that he stole off of the RCMP officer that he shot. And it turns out that the Ruger Mini 14, he was the executor of a relative's will, which allowed him to be temporarily in possession of it.
That despite being warned, the RCMP being warned many times by relatives and friends and ex-common law spouses that he was a potential problem.
Well, and, despite the fact that he'd been, charged with a bunch of stuff previously and all kinds of fun stuff,
So if he was charged with things previously, and the assumption is those things would invalidate him from coming in contact with firearms, that becoming an executor of a state doesn't surpass all firearm law. It just says you can possess a firearm without a firearm license. So he would still be a prohibited person, in which case, why is he in possession of of that firearm?
Well, yeah. I mean, in 2002, he pleaded guilty to assault and was sentenced to 9 months of probation, in which he was prohibited from possessing weapons in order to undergo anger management counseling. At the same time, he's also involved in 2 civil lawsuits regarding property disputes.
But as nothing surprises me nowadays, I don't even know if they check when somebody becomes an executor, like our continuous eligibility screening where we get checked every day. Do they actually do something like that on an executor to see if they're legal to hold on to those firearms in the meantime? Because I don't think they even cross-check if the guy has firearms as an estate or anything else. Like there's got to be a hole in the law there somewhere.
Yeah. Right. No, I can see that not being a case where, every will that gets processed, the government goes and checks and makes sure that the person who's taking care of it can legally possess anything that's in there. But still, like, that doesn't explain the other 3, plus the complaints that apparently were listed to the RCMP. It still sounds like the RCMP just have been effing this thing up since the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, lighting up your fellow officers in a fire hall is definitely the definition of effing up, I would say.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
hey, Ian, no, there nothing wrong was done. Okay, no one's going to get charged. Everything's okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so aside from the being, guilty of assault earlier on in his life, in 2010 he was investigated by Halifax police for threatening his parents, but no official action was taken due to lack of evidence. In 2011, the Truro police received a tip from an unnamed source via email about Wortman's stash of guns and his desire to, quote, kill a cop. They also warned about his recent stress and mental health issues and said he was always kept a handgun close by. Apparently, the tip was transferred to the RCMP for its jurisdictional regions, but it's unclear what action was taken by them. Probably nothing.
So I
And in 2013, he was also reported for assaulting his spouse and having a cache of illegal firearms. So that's at least 3 or 4, red flags, as they like to call them, right there.
Yeah.
this would never happen, but I would love to see whoever decided to squash this thing get brought up on charges. Criminal negligence, attempted murder. I like it,
Yeah.
Clearly someone screwed up royally here and should be paying the price.
Well, I think
Yeah.
there's also a strong speculation because he may have been a police informant or somehow affiliated with them on the sly. That's why they cut him a lot of slack, and also might explain why they decided during an active investigation into this whole mass shooting thing that they decided to demolish his entire house with a plethora of evidence inside before the
Yeah.
investigation was complete. Like there's so much fuckery going on here. I don't know where to begin. So
Yeah, so I mean, well, there's in weeks before the attacks, Wortman liquidated his bank accounts and withdrew a large sum of money in cash. Planes reported that 475,000 withdrawal from Brinks, and other evidence pointed to Wortman's having ties to organized crime and being a confidential informant for the RCMP. In response to the allegations, the RCMP denied having any prior association with Wortman, saying his recent behavior and stockpiling activities were driven by paranoia about the COVID-19 pandemic, possibly growing out of control and leading to widespread institutional and structural collapse.
Well, of course they deny any previous knowledge of him.
Yeah,
Think
a
about all the
total of
complaints that they got and they didn't
Yeah.
do anything about.
and a total of $705,000 was seized from the remains of Wortman's cottage after the attacks. Also, on July 27th, court documents were unsealed detailing police interviews with witnesses who claimed he was a drug smuggler who provided people in Portapeak and nearby Economy. There's a town called Economy out there with drugs from Maine. They've also alleged that he had stockpiles of guns and drugs, along with false walls and hidden components or compartments in his properties. The RCMP confirmed 3 days later that he had kept hidden compartments in buildings, but they were unable to corroborate the drug smuggling claims, probably because it was all burned up or bulldozed or taken.
And these people think we're dangerous with our guns.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a year later. Seems that we are left with more questions than we have answers. There was a memorial held. The insensitive prick did not make it out there. He did, however, send a pre-recorded statement saying that he wishes he could have been there to attend, but he certainly gave his heartfelt sorrows and all of those things that he's so good at doing. And he assured them that they are not alone and that all Canadians stand with them and grieve with them, which we do, except that, these people have no answers, so they are kind of alone.
have no answers, and the measures that have been taken in the interim are going to do nothing to prevent the same thing again from happening again, especially when the RCMP keeps dropping the ball like that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and, there is I guess a tribunal or whatever they've decided to call it. That not even, they don't even have to report anything for at least another year. And that was after they had to fight like hell for them to even have to bother to actually report anything at all.
Yeah, I would just say if they would have enforced the available laws on the books at the time, they would have prevented this thing from happening, no problem. But because they decided to drop the ball and they had plenty of opportunities to intervene, it squarely lays on their the blame lays on them, I guess.
Yeah, don't.
I mean, I don't
Normally,
know
I
how
would
else
say
to say it.
that whenever these things happen and they say they want to enact new laws, this time they enacted a bunch of new laws. The new laws wouldn't have affected the outcome of this event because, well, one, you smuggled the guns illegally, so making these guns double illegal wouldn't have changed anything. But also, the safeguards that they already have in place were ignored, and because they were ignored, like you said, Ian, they allowed this to happen. So they really have to stop coming to us and saying, "Oh, you got to give up your guns to keep people safe," when they're not even
Yeah.
upholding the current laws and regulations that are already on the books.
Well, exactly. I mean, you look at, so if we take this and look at it and go, okay, imagine he had a squeaky clean record, like had never been suspected of anything ever in his life, but didn't have a firearms license. Is anything in C21 going to stop someone from being the executor of a will and being allowed to be temporarily in possession of firearms?
Negative.
Right. Now, if all of this goes through, if it was a mini 14, that would have maybe stopped that particular firearm because that would not be allowed to be transferred to somebody. But any other firearm would still be allowed to be transferred to anybody. So, I mean, it really doesn't do anything. Also, the smuggled guns were all smuggled. So again, no background checks, no license checks, no nothing. You literally go to the guy on the street and go, please give me a legal gun for money, and then you exchange goods for services and stuff, like.
Well, the same thing. We didn't ban cars and remove them from private people as possessions. So next time, if somebody wants to run into a cop and finish them off and take their gun, they can do that again too.
Yeah. I mean, I really do feel for these people, and when something bad happens, and I truly don't wish it to happen to anybody. But, they've used this incident for so much political nonsense, and these people have zero closure, zero answers, and just more questions. When this all could have just been, enforcing the rules we already have on the books would have stopped this person from the very least getting the ones through, you know, quasi legal means, being an executor, but also like if you get enough complaints from people that you've got illegal guns, why are they not looking into it?
It's $1 million question, or $475,000 question.
Yeah, I mean, like, that if any of us got something like that called on us, it would be an immediate inspection.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
they say that we don't already have red flag laws, but like we do, so cops would show up immediately. And I know people that it's happened to. The neighbor gets ticked off at them for something or like sees them cleaning their guns in the kitchen table and just says, "Oh, they've got a machine gun," and call it in, and the cops show up. I mean, they're usually very polite about it, but like it happens. Why didn't they do that to this guy and go, "Wait a minute. Someone said this guy has a stockpile of guns and ammo and he doesn't even have a license? Maybe we should investigate." Nah, forget it. Ridiculous.
yep.
Well, hopefully between now and when the committee has to give their findings, they actually find something. Because otherwise this is all for naught. I mean, like,
I have a feeling the committee will reach its findings after next May 1st and say, well, we probably shouldn't have enacted that gun legislation, but well, it's done now. So,
Well, like they responded to the petition to legalize suppressors in Canada. Yes, you make very valid points, and all the facts and logic you brought forward makes sense. But this is the way it's been for the past, 50 years. So we're just going to leave it the way it is.
well, on to more stupid things, I guess. Dougie.
Yeah.
The stay-at-home order imposed on April 8th for 4 weeks in Ontario now extended until May 20th with new regulations. Oh,
Well, this is where I'm going. I mean, they just announced that today for BC, so I guess we're gonna follow through the same motions as you guys.
yeah.
Well, hey,
So I
if it
got
doesn't work for us, it's definitely not going to work for you guys. So let's all do it together.
Yeah.
yeah. So issued this past Friday. It was supposed to be 2 o'clock, but ended up being more like 4 o'clock because the friggin' guy can't be on time to save his life. Um, Came out and we were all waiting to see what it was, but they did a bunch of stupid things and um, outdoor recreational things were closed. So the gun range that was open is now closed. Parks were closed. You're now not allowed to gather with anybody, at least not an organized gathering. It's certainly not out with people outside of your home. Um, they didn't do a curfew, but they did give the police some pretty interesting powers. The cops were basically given free rein to stop you at any point in time to ascertain where you're from, where you're going, and what you're doing.
And I think it actually is one step better than that because there's only three outcomes there. Either you could tell them to get pound sand, in which case they're going to ticket you.
Yeah.
You could tell the truth, in which case if you were like self-incriminating, they're going to ticket you. Or you could lie to them, which is another ticketable offense and or felony. So
Yeah.
Every time they stop somebody's going to be in trouble because if they don't believe you, they're still going to ticket you. So you can tell they're just going to go for a grocery store, but if they don't believe you, they can just go into the grocery store. They'll ticket you. So it's a huge tool for these. Well, for the typical bad policeman that's got a grudge against you or something, it's not good.
So then they've
not
also
even that, just for the policeman who doesn't want to do his job because what happens if a policeman gives you a ticket and he was completely not supposed to? And I'm not saying that happens every day or even happens once a month, but let's say that happens. It's incumbent on you to spend your time and money to go and fight it.
Yeah.
So does he lose wages doing this? No.
No, he's paid overtime to go to court.
Yeah. No. It's no skin off his back if it's wrong, if it's proven wrong in court or anything. So like what's stopping them from just stopping you and saying, I don't even care what you have to say. I'm just gonna write you a ticket and walk away. Because
interesting aside, that's sort of relevant. I've recently learned that if you are going to go to court to fight a ticket, if you can try to schedule the court appearance on the same day that a police officer has a training exercise generally takes precedent over the court thing. If he doesn't show up, your ticket gets thrown out. Do with that information what you will.
I thought they changed the law in Ontario that they actually don't have to show up to court anymore.
Well, he won't be there to defend it, so it's your word against his or hers.
But they don't have to. They don't have to defend themselves in court.
I'm just saying, you do with what you will with that information. Listeners, feel free to prove me wrong. You're also now only allowed 10 people at a religious service, wedding, or funeral. You can't come in or out of Ontario on the Manitoba border or the Quebec border. They've now set up checkpoints. I'm sure one of them will be called Checkpoint Charlie or something like that. However, you still can fly in from other places around the world, and I believe we now have new flights coming in from Turkey every day, as well as the ones from China that have been coming in constantly.
Correct. The other thing I'm kind of curious about, if there's COVID cases in Ontario and COVID cases in, say, Manitoba, what is the checkpoint trying to accomplish? Like, what is it trying to prevent? Because there's still cases on both sides of this checkpoint.
Yeah, none of this makes
logic,
sense.
and stop using it.
Sorry, silly me.
Yeah.
No, in general, the idea would be.
Yeah, there is also an approved list of reasons why you can and cannot enter the province or exit the province.
Oh, really? They're stopping people at the airport now?
Well, it's meant, I guess, to be from traveling in from Manitoba or Quebec. So no person shall travel into Ontario from Manitoba or Quebec unless the person's principal residence is in Ontario. The person is moving to Ontario in order to make their principal residence in Ontario. The person is traveling through Ontario without unnecessary stops to reach their principal residence in another jurisdiction. The person is traveling into or through Ontario by means of an international or interprovincial bus, train, ferry, or flight. The person is traveling to perform work in Ontario. The person is transporting goods into or through Ontario as part of the operations of the business that is involved in the transportation of goods. The person's health makes it necessary to travel into Ontario to obtain healthcare or social services. The person is traveling in a vehicle that is transporting or that will transport a person in Ontario to or from a hospital or healthcare facility in Manitoba or Quebec. The person is being transported from a hospital or healthcare facility in Manitoba or Quebec, or the ambulance, or yada yada yada. The person is the care of children, yada 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 yada. So like, there's a shit ton of reasons why you can and can't, but there would still be checkpoints at the borders preventing people from coming in unless they happen to meet one of the approved reasons.
Sounds like pretty much the exact reasons why people be traveling anyway.
Yeah. So yeah. Absolutely ridiculous. So ridiculous, in fact, that almost immediately following, they backpedaled on a bunch of this stuff. So to all of the people that are finally waking up and finally pushing back, thank you. Because of the freak out over the new police powers and everything else, and thank you to the police agencies that basically stood up and said that they
And
will not be doing random stops. It really it warms my heart ever so slightly. I know we bash on the cops a little bit. We don't necessarily mean to bash on the individual cops except for the garbage ones, because as a whole, your guys are generally decent people and are regular people. The agencies we sometimes have problems with, especially you, RCMP. Um,
And even then, it's usually just the brass.
yeah, it's not the individual officers that make that up, but like the agencies all kind of immediately came forward and said that we are not going to do this. And I was kind of worried living in the area that I live in Peel, um, that they would definitely be on board with the randomly pulling people over to ascertain where they're going, what they're doing, and where they're going, and all that. But I mean, even the mayor came out and tweeted that like she wouldn't be putting up with that nonsense and to not worry about it. And Toronto did, and Hamilton and London and all of the other major cities almost immediately all echoed each other and said that nah, we're not gonna do that,
I
which
think
is
somebody
kind of
made a
awesome.
well, I think somebody made a meme out of it today. That was like only in Canada would the government trying to hand them police state powers, and they said no, thank you, eh?
Yeah. So yeah, to the
I'm kind of
agencies.
surprised
Yeah.
that they did that though, but it should be noted that the OPP did not do that.
Well, but they're a little bit different because like they're a provincial force, so they kind of have to follow their leaders. Not that
Well,
I'm
it's a little
saying they
different too.
should. Yeah.
Well, like the RCMP commissioner, same thing with the OPP commissioner. I'm pretty sure a political appointee is kind of told to, toe the party line, so to speak. So
Yeah, if he wants to keep his job or her job, he needs to, or she needs to just keep their mouth shut. And whether they, if they agree with it, great, get on board and be vocal. But if they don't, yeah, just don't say anything. So yeah, they backpedaled pretty hard on the new police powers after the backlash, and changed it. So they were originally allowed to random police checks of motorists and pedestrians and all of that, and now they've changed it so that they trying to find the exact wording here. So they are only going to pull you over and question you if they feel that you are potentially in violation of a public health measure, specifically relating to gatherings and crowds for the most part. So as long as you're on your way doing your own thing and you're not in a gathering or crowd, you should be fine.
The standard answer is I'm going grocery shopping.
Yes. Also, parks were reopened. So, which was amazing that like there were people going around and liberating parks. So like, you know, the city workers were all tasked with, I guess, going around and putting like caution tape or like police tape or whatever, like blocking off public parks and the like all the swing sets and, you know, playground stuff. And there were people that would basically go around and just like take that all off, which was awesome. But I mean, it basically is like a great example of how, you know, peaceful non-compliance can achieve goals.
Well, also, it was kind of terrifying when one of our other panelists there, had an interaction with some youth corps there, and they were screaming at him for being near the playground when they were, it was closed, and they felt obligated to run out of their house and try and shoo him away.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, unfortunately, with every good story, there are also several bad ones that go along with it. Allegedly, my girlfriend was supposed to go and get an illegal haircut this coming Friday. Now, the person doing it was doing it with a few other people, and they were doing it for a friend in their backyard the other day, while both of them were wearing masks outside. One of the neighbors saw and called it in, and the police showed up. Now, granted, they just gave them a warning. But also, people, if you see your neighbor giving somebody a haircut in the backyard, and both of those people are wearing masks and more than 6 feet away from you with fences and everything in the way, mind your fucking business.
I'm more of the opinion that if you're so scared of living, then maybe you shouldn't be.
Also accurate. Like, yeah, just stay inside. If you're that scared that your neighbor can't have somebody over when they're like miles away, just stay inside.
Well, and the worst part is probably while these cops were, giving a warning, there was probably distant gunshots from Jane and Finch going off in the distance, but that's not important,
Well, this is out in the Hammer, so it would have been like Barton Street, but same difference.
Okay, but same thing.
Same difference. Yeah, same difference.
Until sometimes they've solved all gang crime and gotten rid of all the the misdirected youth and everything else by getting them in the right path. Why are they really enforcing something like that? It's like a victimless crime, for lack of a better term.
Yeah,
it's like people consensually meeting up to exchange money for services that are kind of necessary, unless you want to look like Grizzly Adams. Not that your girlfriend looks like a Grizzly Adams, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's crazy. I mean, if they lived together, there'd be no problem. But like, how many cases have been tracked back to haircut? Oh, none. How many have been tracked back to playgrounds? None. How many have been tracked back to retail? Or none.
And one would think that Dougie would have a glorious mullet by now. Maybe he hadn't gotten his haircut at some point.
Well,
I thought we did debunk the whole you touch something and then 3 days later someone touches it and they'll get COVID. I thought we debunked that I don't know, month 3 of lockdown.
Yeah, no, that was debunked over a year ago.
Yeah. Also attached to this article here that I've got about Ontario backpedaling, I guess Alberta confirms a second blood clot case after AstraZeneca vaccine.
That means we'll get it for an even better price now then, right?
Yeah. We'll probably get more of them and for a better price. Also,
we may get a better price, but it doesn't mean they're actually going to deliver it. Pfizer recently say they're not going to actually deliver it on time because for some reason their production isn't up to snuff. Yet every other country in the world seems to be getting their order, just not Canada.
It doesn't matter whether people take it or not. What matters is that we've spent the money on them, and that
Yeah. I think, and again, I'm not saying Trudeau himself did it, but the people that were negotiating the contracts were smart enough to not demand a fixed delivery date or a minimum delivery, window or level of service or anything else. Just like, we'll pay you for these vaccines.
Yeah.
Get them here when you can. And so, of course, they're going to fill every other order first, that because they know the Canada's a guaranteed sale waiting in line down the road.
Yeah, that, and for the sales reps of AstraZeneca and all of the other vaccines, if you guys are looking for new jobs once this is done, clearly you guys are the better negotiators. Please contact the show.
Yeah.
And global COVID-19 deaths top 3 million.
But again, they haven't reset the clock after the 1 year anniversary, so it's just going to keep being cumulative forever. Just
but
like
I mean,
flu season or anything else.
how many? What's the population of the world?
8 billion right
Yeah,
now.
so like clearly super deadly.
Yeah.
Super deadly and dangerous.
Not only that, I mean, like, they don't talk about cumulative AIDS deaths. They might talk about AIDS deaths this year. They might talk about flu deaths this year.
But not cumulative from like all time. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it's ridiculous anyway.
Yeah.
And ICUs were always full. I mean, they were full before COVID.
Yeah, except that when you do the math, it doesn't seem to work out because it's like 1.7 people are hospitalized for COVID per hospital in Ontario. Can't imagine that these hospitals only have 2 beds.
How many? At a certain point, we probably have reached herd immunity with an average of, let's say, 1,500 people per day, new cases per day. At a certain point, you run out of population. No, in Ontario, anyways.
They keep on coming up with these new variants, Benny. It's a super scary stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the new variants. Yeah, no, not like there's nothing showing that the new variants are more likely to get you the second time. So I don't know what everyone's talking about that.
I mean, the real herd immunity that I'm worried about is the one where everyone's a sheep. I'd like to stop people being in a herd of sheep and get them to wake up, which thankfully, I guess it looks like some people finally are with the pushback with the police powers and the closing of parks. I wish they would have gotten a little bit angrier with the shutting down of businesses and killing of the economy.
Yeah, because honestly, instead of sheep, they were kind of looking like lemmings for a lot of these people because they're just willingly driving their economy off a cliff and without much thought beyond it. So
yeah, stay tuned for not next week's episode, but I guess the week after that when we go deep dive into the budget we're finally getting.
Well, by then we might be talking about the election coming up too, because
yeah,
I can't imagine this is going to pass, but we'll see.
Which, just as a quick aside, it's kind of weird that the budget comes out on the day that like a good chunk of the nation's cell phones all died. But
that's for the other show, sir.
Yeah. Well, we get a little tinfoil hatty here as well.
Yeah.
But another one here, Peel officer suspended after hugging COVID-19 protesters, accusing journalist of agitating attendees.
So he showed his human side. Can't have that.
Yeah, to de-escalate a situation, he gave people hugs, and now he's being suspended.
I guess pepper spray would have been the better choice.
No, had he been beating him, it would have been okay. As long as he just screamed, "Stop resisting! Stop resisting!" It would have been. I think it would have passed muster.
Well, it depends. Was he 85 years old?
So I guess, there were a number of people protesting at Huff Gym in the Cawthra and Dundas area on Friday because Huff Gym is one of the places that has basically said, F you government, I'm staying open. So people were there supporting that and everything else. And, there were a number of protesters and the police were there making sure it didn't get out of hand. And I guess the reporter was agitating the crowd because that's what it seems like the media does these days. And the cop kind of was there giving hugs to people, and yeah, now he's getting suspended. That's bullshit.
At least I doubt he'll get fired.
Feel sorry for that guy.
Yeah. Anyway.
Other COVID news, because the numbers are looking so bad in Ontario, probably because we haven't reset the clock, but because they're looking so bad, I guess what's her position here? Let me see this article here. Procurement Minister Anita Anand isn't ruling out the option that they could invoke the Emergencies Act federally.
Well, that just removes any roadblocks from them doing what they really want to do anyway, right?
Yeah, so I'm not really sure why it's the procurement minister that's talking about this so much, but apparently, the premise is that by doing this federally, they will be able to cut through the bureaucratic red tape, mostly created by the left-leaning parties of more layers of government, in order to make cash flow through the system faster. So Ontario is having a bunch of problems. Let's funnel them more money. Because somehow that seems to make problems go away.
Yes,
Well, I do believe
because money will get vaccines to people faster instead of, I don't know, using the distribution model used in other countries that did a much better job at getting their population vaccinated so much earlier.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess, we have the Ontario government enacting the emergencies thing for the third or fourth time so far this year. And the police getting like, SS level of, powers or Stasi, depending on which one you want to go with. But yeah, let's just do that federally now. It sounds like a great idea. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah. Well, I do believe actually if they have logistical issues, that's one of the reasons they can invoke the Emergencies Act. So maybe that's why they can procurement minister is in on it.
Yeah, but I mean, can't they just, enact an order in council to deal with specifically the things that are preventing them from getting the COVID stuff done? Like, why do they need to go full-blown Emergencies Act?
Because that would be letting a good opportunity go to waste.
Well, exactly. But I mean, if they just needed to do this one thing and needed the Emergencies Act for just this one thing, just enact a thing that lets you do the one thing that you need instead of the one that's going to go, well, we need to do this so that we can do this, but then also grant us all of these other powers that let us go unchecked for a period of time.
Gavin, if they do it at OIC, they have to write up a whole new thing. But if they just enact the Emergencies Act, all they have to do is say we're enacting the Emergency Act.
I mean, yes, but also one makes you look like you're hiding something, and the other one makes it look like you're trying to actually do something. But I guess that's where I have problems with government, and that's why we have this show.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, I'm with taxpayer Dave on this. I don't think I would have hugged the guy, but I would have gladly have shaken his hand.
Post for selfies, whatever.
Yeah, selfies. Maybe I would have hugged him. Who cares? I mean, I'm comfortable with my sexuality like that. I can hug another man and have it not be too weird. Would have been awkward though if he felt my concealed carry piece.
Yeah. Just pretend we don't see that. Probably be less awkward if you just said it was a boner at that point.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess that's everything I've got for this evening. unless you guys have any articles that you want to,
No, I haven't looked enough at the budget to actually unpack it properly, and I don't want to come off as
Yeah,
ill-informed.
we'll pass that off because I know Marty really wants to take a run at this one, and he's our resident budget autiste because he actually sits through and reads and listens to the whole thing. I just drunkenly make commentary on it.
Yeah, I don't think fiscal responsibility is going to be the buzzwords of that one, but
No, I mean it's been what, how many days since we actually had a budget?
well, 2 years roughly, right?
Yeah,
Ian,
first one in 2 years.
It could be the buzzword. They'll just, say it would be so much work. It would be, but we're being very fiscally responsible. But that's why it's so low. Otherwise, it'd be a lot higher.
Yeah, I wonder if they're just gonna like when they deliver it, it's just gonna be it balanced itself. Oh, great, problem solved.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that. But next week, book club as always. Tune in. We don't talk about it though because April's book club is Fight Club, so don't tell anyone about it. Just tune in and listen. No, seriously, tell all your friends. It'll be a fun one. I was not really a fan of the book, but we'll get into that more. The movie was great. The book, yeah. April, Chuck Palahniuk's Fight Club. You still got time to read it. It's really short. It's not a difficult read.
Not at all.
You've got a week. Get after it. If you read or if you watch the movie, you'll get most of it. Don't tell anyone I said that. It's not like Ender's Game where they like just skip massive parts of it. While you're at it, if you need to buy the book because you haven't read it yet, head on over to the Amazon. Use our affiliate link. You can go and get a Big Luau shirt from there, the official Big Luau shirt. Use bigluau.biz to pick that up. We get a couple of bucks every time you buy something using our affiliate link. It doesn't cost you any extra, but it helps Andrew buy diapers for the kids so that he can in turn use other money to pay for the hosting and all of the things that's, not covered by all of our wonderful, wonderful Patreons. We've got a Discord server because no other social media will have us. So you can hang out with us there. Better Andrew is the one that's on there the most because he's young and that's what they do. Us old timers are on there less frequently, but we're there.
I'm usually just shit posting memes.
As one does. Meme magic is real. Praise Keck and all that. Where can everyone find you guys? Benny?
BennyLewis.ca. We've got hearing protection, knives, speed loaders, all in stock.
Awesome. Ian?
You can reach me at the islandretreat@gmail.com, and you can also find me pontificating about preparedness related stuff on Canadian Prepper Podcast. Same bat time, similar bat channel, Canadian Prepper Podcast, 9 p.m. Eastern on Sundays.
Sometimes one in the same channel.
Yeah, sometimes one of the same panelists, but
yeah, our signals get a little crossed from time to time, but that's okay. You can find me typically on the gram, Urbex GTA, all one word. When I'm not there, you can also find me on RagnarokTactical.ca. And because you've listened for so long, you guys deserve a discount. Use code Patriot at checkout. Or Gavin10. Same difference. But one gives, me a little shout out. I don't get a cut out of it. I just get a little shout out because it shows who bought using what. But yeah, do that. Visit the podcast homepage, CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. And I'll do the ad read here for the show. We value your opinions, so please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com and let us know what you think. Now, Andrew might get mad, but we may not value your opinion, but we do appreciate it. So,
and we will read it.
Yeah, send us your feedback. Send us your hate mail. We love your hate mail. Also, we will read pretty much anything. So if you need us to shill for something, we will gladly do it and just read it on the air.
But free stuff does help.
Yeah. That and apologies to Rod. Apparently, he misunderstood the traveling into Ontario regulations. They don't apply for online things, but miscommunication. So unfortunately, he couldn't be here. But outside of that, I want to remind everyone that you are the true North, strong and free.
Free-ish.
Yeah, something along.